I hate horror media. Whether it's the flat-out jump scare gimmick a movie might pull, or the dread and uneasiness that is struck into the player when they're walking through an atmosphere of gloom combined with terror in a video game, any combination of these elements and mediums will absolutely deter me from ever showing interest in a TV show, movie, game, comic, and even a book. Get a load of this guy. He gets scared by a few words on a page. But this might be the one instance where the horror elevated a piece of media to amazing heights. Fallout is a beloved series by people who adore Todd Howard a little bit too much. There are good games in the series such as New Vegas that I've heard so many talk about how it's unique compared to the other entries in the series. The TV series just released and I want to take this chance to convince you to watch it. Despite all the negative things Bethesda are known for when taking the cheap way out or coming up with subpar solutions, I want to talk about how the Fallout show completely changed how I look at Fallout as a series. This is going to contain spoilers for the Fallout show, but without further stalling, let's get into the unthinkable fear in Fallout. Let's talk about the Fallout games first. As gamers all know, Bethesda likes to release these RPGs that are only action first-person shooters in nature. They provide the illusion of choice, and for people who watch the Fallout show and don't know about the games, this might sound appealing, but oh boy. It's like saying Naruto is the magnum opus of shinobi culture, but it's just a cover-up for a guy wanting to draw characters with their dogs out. The only entry in the series that did the RPG scene justice was Fallout New Vegas. They implemented choices and decision-making that felt like they had an impact in the world. You could solve cases in more ways than just plain violence. Again, this might sound like complete gibberish to a normie who just loaded up their streaming services to watch an action thriller, but I swear I'm going somewhere with this. In the Fallout show, it seems like they focused more on the games that centered around action as the main activity. I have no problem with this, but we have to understand this so that we can appreciate what the producers of the show did with what they had. Without the RPG aspects that make a story and world as a whole full of life, it can seem very bleak when all of your problems are solved by throwing hands with your opponent, or in Fallout's case, human-made abominations beyond your imagination's capacity. The alternatives that the writers, producers, and directors had to resort to in order to create an enticing and exciting show that kept you on the edge of your seat were world building and horror. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who views the show like this, seeing as I'm not a fan of the game in either camp of hates the game so much that they mod the shit out of the product to forget about the slop they got served, or chokes on Todd Howard's salami so viciously that they need to take their inhaler just to stop from hyperventilating when expressing admiration for the Fallout series. It's difficult being an outsider in a fandom that might crucify me for saying the wrong thing. What amazed me so much about the show was how they framed the world and situation of the characters. Each of the cast has such different roles, motivations, and intentions when talking about their objectives, but the show presents the world itself in a refreshing light compared to the single-file line storytelling they do, like I'm working the factory line for the next Todd Howard-inspired Tanga. I want to discuss what I mean exactly, so let's get into the framework of the apocalypse. Post-apocalyptic media is plentiful in the entertainment industry. You have shows like The Walking Dead, depicting a world where all hope had been lost for civilization, and it seems like our characters are barely making it by day to day. It seems fairly realistic considering that most families in Los Angeles are only making it paycheck to paycheck. It's tough being in a family of 3 brothers when all there is to eat sometimes is tortillas with cheese. The other comic that comes to mind is something I've reviewed before on this channel called Touring After the Apocalypse. It's a manga about a pair of girls on a motorcycle exploring what is left of the world after war has torn it apart. It's very lighthearted compared to the deep pits of Tartarus represented by human nature in The Walking Dead, but it still has the same mystery that gets you interested in the world and its exact history regarding the world entirely or individual beings and entities. I would say that individually, these two series do one thing well. For The Walking Dead, you have the suspense that is built around the characters, what is going to happen to them, and the results of the actions they take. Having to face the consequences of their choices is vital, making the action all the more important. Think of it sort of like Torture Blackjack, a fun game where you take all the risks you want, but at the expense of your grubby little digits. Touring after the apocalypse does well in luring you into the mystery of the world. There aren't many apparent stakes when it comes to what happens in the story, but the unsolved cases and events in a world that not many surviving people have seen for themselves is enough to keep your head in the water. Think of it like your head is being dunked in a tub of water full of piranhas, but they're trained piranhas. It's not like I'll suggest this idea without knowing they're trained piranhas. Alexa, is it possible to train a piranha? With The Walking Dead, you have the exhilarating action that keeps you entranced for short periods of time, but maybe not enough to make you give a damn. With Touring After the Apocalypse, you have the net question of ambiguity that asks what exactly did happen in the world, but this net might not catch all the fish that swim by its wake. When you combine these two together, you get what the Fallout show has done so perfectly and what made me binge it the 2 days after it came out. The Fallout games are very similar to The Walking Dead and other action thriller shows like it. Its main focus is the action between factions and their never-ending battle that you hope to one day see the end of. I mean, The Walking Dead is still getting new spin-offs every so often. It's tough to say if we'll ever see the end of it by the time we're on our deathbeds. The Fallout show turns this around with the addition of the secrets that need to be discovered by the characters. The characters in the show represent the corners of the Fallout wasteland very well. Lucy is a vault dweller who is blinded by her loyalty in the vault system. She believes in the good intentions that their overseers have told them about and fully trust in their leadership. It's because of this that she goes on her journey to find her father, who has been taken by the ruthless surface dwellers. It's nice to see that blind faith and systematic discrimination still exist at the end of the world. Maximus is a Brotherhood of Steel member who doesn't know where he belongs. He wants to do well by the leaders in the Brotherhood of Steel, but believes in his own values as a person. If someone is an asshole, he's going to call them out on it. This leads to him being sort of a prick and results in him making confusing decisions. At the end of these 8 episodes, his mind is muddled with different identities. He doesn't know who he wants to stand as, just like any college student during their first year of studies. The goal is, well, it's pretty fucking self-explanatory. He is a surface dweller who doesn't belong to any faction. A roamer who takes on jobs as a bounty hunter. He goes where he pleases, and with the skills he's built up over his life, he takes on the challenges of the wasteland with determination and cruelty. He might be this at the beginning, but even he has questions that he wants answered at the end of all this. These 3 together make up the main cast, and they discover corners of the world at their own pace. Through interacting with old acquaintances, new people, or one another, they are unearthing what makes the wasteland so intricate and connected. It's not just the remnants of a world where nuclear fallout has left it barren. Well, it is exactly that, but not everything is as it seems. There are forces at play that need to be brought out and exposed. It's this fog over the scene that provides a mystification that brings people into this world, providing the viewer with the ability to think about what might be behind the curtain. What cruelties or fortunes are battling with each other to decide the power balance in this world? Where are these located, and when will they be revealed to the audience? It's something that lots of shows do, but that Fallout has the upper hand in. I mentioned before that I don't like horror media. It is uninteresting to me, but that's just another way of saying I'm a scaredy cat with no backbone. Disregarding the self-deprecation, I think lots of horror movies, shows, and games provide a linear experience. One where you can tell what might happen if you ignore your racing heartbeat and sweaty palms. Well, in my case at least. You can watch and whimper in your chair about the dreadful end that awaits your protagonist, or take control of the character and either fight back as much as you can or run for your life if you have no other option. It's clear what the objective or intent for the consumer is, and it's very similar to most of the Fallout games I mentioned before. The Fallout games provide a good basis for what to expect in the wasteland. You're introduced to filthy, enlarged insects and reptiles that populate the wasteland and are your enemy. There are raiders and scavengers who will do anything to protect their land and loot. You're introduced to a ton of factions with different missions and given a way to fight for them or against them. It's an action first-person shooter with a hint of fear, but not enough to make the player afraid of what their next mission entails. I won't bash on the games so much because I do enjoy them. They are good for what they are, but they don't do the setting of the Fallout universe justice. You run into problems headfirst in Fallout, like you're the unstoppable force, but the enemies aren't the immovable object. Rather, they are a very malleable object. It's disappointing in this sense because you don't stop to think about why things are the way they are. There's no tension built into your encounters, and like you'd expect, it's like telling a mukbang YouTuber to not eat the uncanny looking cake. I don't think it's something that the Fallout games could provide to us unless the gameplay loop undergoes an entire overhaul, similar to that of popular horror games like Resident Evil or Outlast. Even then, those have their flaws too. While those are filled with mystery and lore that captures people in its world, Resident Evil gives too much power to the player. It feels like you are the hunter and the enemies are the hunted, which shouldn't be the case considering the type of Lovecraftian horror shit you face in the world. When we look at Outlast, it feels like you are Sisyphus pushing a boulder up the hill. It's a losing battle that you will not be able to see the end of. You're going where the wind blows you, and you might have the chance of seeing a good ending. It gives too little power to the player, and an experience like this might leave you thinking that you spent a full day grinding out a game where you held nothing but the W key the entire time. You didn't do so in a setting where you were dominant like you're a brain-dead Reinhardt in Overwatch, but in a pussy bitch way where you're unsure of everything you're leaving behind, unexplored, and abandoned. There needs to be a balance where the characters feel like they have an impact on the world, but not too much. One filled with history that plagues the world's characters and that they need to overcome and discover. I'm not sure if it's just because it was in a television show format, but the Fallout series did this perfectly. The way I see it, they instilled something in their viewers that other entries hadn't done in the past while keeping the high-octane action that people love in their otherworldly media. The Fallout games couldn't do this, but I think the Fallout show introduces the idea of the unknown in a way where you don't come to be enthusiastic about it, but that you dread every single second of its ambiguous existence. There are many unknowns to apocalyptic settings where events occur that no one would have ever thought could have happened. Hey, even in real life, there are some unexplainable occurrences that get the cogs turning and actions going. The Walking Dead creator baited his publishers into thinking that aliens were going to be the final destination for what caused the zombie apocalypse. I can't imagine if they'd be shits like E.T. or something as terrifying as Goku. Either way, unexplainable happenings result in amazing outcomes. This is no different in the universe of Fallout. To all my gamers out there, I bet you can lore dump a whole lot of theories regarding the Fallout TV series and what might be the source of the things that happen in the show. I'm going to avoid all that, and I ask you to do the same because I merely want to talk about the cavern that these possibilities provide to us. I don't want you to light fireworks in this cavern to debunk and destroy this fascinating scenery we've been given. Behind one stone face, you have the mysteries of the vaults and what they actually are. What is their purpose in this rundown world, and where is the finish line for these people? When you think about it, the vault dwellers are kind of like shut-ins practicing abstinence until marriage. The problem with this is that some shut-ins never make it out of their degeneracy pit and they die a wizard. That's how the vault dwellers seem to me. Putting unrealistic expectations in their sightlines causes them to get stuck in a world of their own delusions. On the ceiling of the cavern, there are paintings of the wastelanders. They're surviving up in this irradiated world with what little they have left. They turn to vicious and merciless tactics to get by, and they'd be lucky to achieve this without those methods while keeping all their limbs intact. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and we think we have it hard. We're little itty-bitty purse chihuahuas, while everything in the wasteland are long, snouty borzoi boys who you've just poked the wrong way with a stick. On the floor of the cavern, you find footsteps of what was once a Brotherhood of Steel member. They scoured the wasteland for technology so that they don't make it into the hands of anyone else. Why are these technologies so important, and what meaning do they hold in the hands of the Brotherhood that is any different from any regular Joe? Then again, I don't think you should trust just anyone with unfiltered internet access. I guess it's the same in that you're in possession of what could be forbidden archives of knowledge from the past that could lead to a dangerous future. Look at iPad kids, for example. The brain rot they're subjected to comes from the mind of a fully functioning adult who probably was a hermit on the internet back in the day. They probably tortured themselves with YouTube poops or worse for all I know. all. These are the 3 types of people we encounter in Fallout, and there's many more factions that make up its universe. I won't dump them all onto you right now. The point of this video is not to be Todd Howard's Fallout Bible. I bring this up because I like how the show is moving at a comfortable pace. It introduces enough to get some plans in action and your mind thinking about the different plot lines occurring at the same time. It also leaves enough space to leave some mystery behind some of the factions we know of, factions we have yet to concretely come in contact with, and the world itself. This is where the fear from Fallout comes in. Let me tell you, Fallout used to be the scariest game to me, but for the wrong reasons. I hated the giant mutated animals that now roam the land, and insects were my worst ick. I would dream about them being real, and I'd wake up in cold sweats. While this is still valid in its own way, I think there's a lot more to be fearful of that the games don't really capture. From the individual figures in each of the factions to the goals and missions they bet their ideals on. What exactly has shown up and festered on the overworld after the bombs went off? To start off with, the monsters are a product of nature taking its course. When these advanced nuclear explosives went off and turned the entirety of America into a barren mosh pit of forces looking to take the throne, the mutated animals probably had the best head start. They've evolved to survive in this ruthless world, and as a result, might get any normal wastelander wishing they had worn brown pants instead of their white jeans. In the show, we've only been introduced to some of the different species such as radroaches, gulpers, and yaoguai. Who knows what more might be lurking underneath the waters or hibernating deep inside of the caves. We got foreshadowing for what creatures we might see in the 2nd season of the Fallout show, so as a fan of the games, I'm excited to see them in action, but if I were someone who only watched the show, I'd be worried. I'd be shivering in my timbers because from what we've seen of the creatures such as the gulpers, you can't really imagine where the meshing of fucked up evolutionary traits and Lovecraftian horrors we might have in store for us. In terms of the people in the show, the factions have so much mystery to them, and the show expands on a specific kind of branch of those people that even longtime fans of the franchise aren't entirely sure where some of them are headed. The whole premise of the 1st season is that there's an artifact out in the wasteland, and factions are fighting over possession on it. We are left wondering what it is until the end, and through different stages in the show, we have groups such as the Brotherhood of Steel revealing what this power might give them if they got their hands on it. The leader of this branch seems to have ulterior motives other than just recovering it for safekeeping. There seems to be a sort of science corporation that we get a glimpse of towards one of the beginning episodes. There's talk in the community about who exactly this faction is, but I won't get into that because the show didn't either, and I'm not a conspiracy channel either. You won't see me talking about the obviously fake moon landing, why everyone thinks the world is round for some dumb reason. Anyways, this group of scientists has a connection to the artifact as well. It makes you think about what else they might have in their hands. Was this artifact ever supposed to get out of the premises of these labs? Who was the scientist who ran off with the artifact, and why does he know so much about our vault dweller friend? There's 1,000 shrouds cloaking the people in this faction, and with every layer that is uncovered, you found about 5 more shrouds beneath that one. It'll be interesting to see whether we resolve all these questions and concerns at the end of the Fallout show, but for now, it's just another mystery of the wasteland. Who are these people and what is their goal compared to the Brotherhood of Steel? When you take a look at the initial setup for the Fallout show, you understand that it is survivors pitted against each other to achieve their goals. As the plot thickens, you seem to realize more about the world, but it leaves you with a jaded mind when picturing the Fallout world. During some of the sequences of the show, I experienced genuine dread from being a bystander. I didn't want to see what could potentially happen because around one corner, you have an insidious operation taking advantage of prisoners and slaves being brought in and traded. When you turn around the other corner, you have a strange and uneasy community of people who you can't tell what their motives, ideals, and mission represents and what it is going to mean for our beloved characters. I talked to my friend about the show after we both finished it, and he said during certain moments since we binged the entire show in one day that he honestly felt like he was going to throw up. My hands would get clammy and I felt beads of sweat rolling down my forehead. That's the type of fear and restlessness that the mystery of the Fallout world should put in you. Now, I don't recommend that you go to Vomit City if you're feeling that nauseous from the suspense, but I understand that at the same time, you want to know the outcome of our protagonist and if they make it out of this mess alive. The only other times I felt this indescribable dread was from my favorite anime ever, Clannad, and back when I was dating that girl from 2019, but that's not really related to this. Putting that aside, this fear that the show has managed to build build up as we learn more about its world is thanks to the world building they do in the show. It brings up enough details to get you invested in the characters and the story, but not so much as to ruin the surprise of the extensive world that exists in Fallout. Think about it like it's your 6-year-old's birthday party. You ordered the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles bouncy castle and have the SpongeBob cake out on display, but you didn't tell your child that the blue arrows in the ground aren't a convenient reference to Aang from The Last Airbender. You're actually going to slime them and get everyone at the party to clap and applaud this embarrassing moment of theirs. It'll be an iconic and traumatic memory for the child. That's my interpretation and prediction for how the Fallout show is going to unfold. There's so much to Fallout that is yet to be revealed, but not much that can be anticipated. The world that it exists in is an interesting enough setting as is in the show. Feeling like you know there's something hiding around in an alley, but you can't predict what exactly is going to go down is suspenseful. Shows like this are only able to fully realize and employ this fear if the world building is done at a proper pace in a suitable scale. I think this is where the Fallout show succeeds, whereas the Fallout games seem to fall flat on their face. Then again, they are Bethesda games, and we all know the unfiltered goofiness that Todd Howard exudes. If he was going to be the lead guy in making Outlast 3, he would turn it into a dating sim where you can rizz up the lunatics to avoid getting your goobers gobbled, and maybe you want that, I don't know.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Whether you're a freak or not, you have to give credit to the Fallout show for utilizing its medium in the perfect way. When you're telling a linear story like this, where miscellaneous quests are not something you stumble onto all the time, you have to provide the lore and world building solely through the main plot line. The side quests we do go on in the show give background and allude to the ending that has yet to be revealed. I want to dive into this on the tail end of this video, so let's explore a little bit about the versatility of media. I keep diving into the games that this adaptation originates from because in recent years, there's been a surge of well-made adaptations that surpassed any expectations set by past examples. Some examples of these shows are Cyberpunk Edge Runners, famously from Cyberpunk 2077. There's Last of Us from the popular story-driven shooter The Last of Us. I think the adaptation where this pattern started to emerge was with Arcane, originally coming from League of Legends. A popular sentiment that comes from these communities is that it's so sad that the fans of these shows were inspired to play the games because it is only a downhill spiral from there. Personally, I love that these mediums are translating people from one to the other because it means works of art are able to be enjoyed by more people. I'm not trying to play into the League doomer mentality when I say this, but I have to agree with some of the fans that watching the show originally definitely sets the wrong expectations for fans who think it'll be the same experience controlling your own character versus watching a protagonist try their best in their fucked up world. The games that are played like movies give me the best evidence in that regular people are either maniacally fucked up when making choices or just moved in from stupid town population U. Many of these games hold different functions than general shows and movies. Games like The Last of Us and Cyberpunk 2077 are story-driven games where you roleplay as your creatable or staple character. You are taken through the plot like it's a screenplay and it immerses you in the environment. Other games like League of Legends and Sonic are more about the silliness of the community and the gameplay it provides. The Sonic fan dub is a perfect example of what you can expect out of the Sonic fandom.
It seems I've fallen off the path.
When you watch Arcane though, it is a drama-driven action thriller with fantasy aspects in every little interaction. Some of the scenes in the show are absolutely genius when it comes to its framing and composition. Cyberpunk Edge Runners presents the cyberpunk world in its cruelest yet truest fashion. There are points that may seem uncomfortable for some of you, but other points that shatter your heart into a million pieces, and you're not sure how you'll pick it back up. These TV series adaptations take what is best about the world of the stories and presents it in a digestible format. All League of Legends is about is making thirst trap skins for the characters, and The Last of Us is a survival shooter that does require you to take some sort of caution and be resourceful. I don't know if non-gamers have the foresight to realize when they might be coming up to a dangerous area. They're different from what their adaptations make them out to be. It's a blessing that I'm able to enjoy any form of media, whether it's in the game, TV show, movie, book, or comic format. I'm able to enjoy the best of all worlds because whether it is the inner monologue that I want from a novel or the implication of certain things in a more compressed television format, I I'm able to consume and enjoy them, maybe not equally, but above a certain bottom line that I find acceptable. Fallout falls into the same case I've been discussing for the past few minutes. The games themselves hold very little finesse when unraveling the world and its mysteries. Bethesda hasn't been known to make the most intricate games.
Fallout between us. Fallout New Vegas.
Which makes sense why Todd Howard cranked out Starfield as his last project. That game is like No Man's Sky if you set it on fire, doused it in 20-in-1 shampoo, body wash, conditioner, moisturizer,
Face cleaner. Deodorant.
served it to a customer in a fine dining establishment, and the result was the regurgitated slop and bubbling stomach acids that came out along with it. The execution of the Fallout games was done in an average manner. I wasn't upset by the plot points that emerged as I got deeper into the game, but I wasn't exactly astonished by the storytelling either. The setting of Fallout was something really special, and I can't speak on if this is true or not, but when Todd Howard heard this final pitch for a Fallout television series, he immediately had to jump on this opportunity. He said that the director truly understood what the core values of the Fallout world were and believed he could pull off an amazing adaptation. He did that exactly, and whether or not you believe Todd Howard depends on how intensely you glaze him, and if you ever believed he understood his own core values for Fallout. The work put into the Fallout show was nothing to scoff at. The sets were based on real measurements from the games themselves when it came to laying out the vault structures. 3D printing certain parts for use on set was a common occurrence, and everyone working on the project was shocked with the attention to detail. It was truly a creatively charged project that wanted to pay homage to the ideals set forth by Fallout. Everything from the props like stacks of papers being legitimately written reports on different parts of the vault to the care that the actors put into playing these characters the best they could was amazing. The attentiveness the crew had to every part of this project led to a product that none of us could have expected out of something that the schmuck Todd Howard produced. I feel bad for some of the people who might pick up the Fallout games from the show and not be as impressed or immersed as they might have been during the show, but everyone enjoys things differently, so I really have to appreciate people's ability to transfer media across mediums and transform it not only into a digestible format, but an experience that lets the core values of the world shine. In Cyberpunk Edgerunners, it was the downright brutality that Night City displayed, whether you were part of a corporation, a rogue, mercenary, or any profession. Once you go from the anime to the game, you recognize more of these occurrences in the original product as well. In Arcane, you get to see the expansive world that Riot Games has managed to build up through the years the game has been alive. If you went from the show to the game, you would know that a lot of this tends to take the back seat. It's only picked up by those gold mine sifters who, instead of finding tiny gold nuggets, they get to pick up the crumbs left by Riot, dictating that no, Ezreal and Lux is not canon. If anything, I think it creates a healthy ecosystem of media enjoyers. People can enjoy different series however they want, and in however many formats they desire. In my case, I'll be reading or playing or watching anything released by Bethesda regarding the Fallout series, because with the television show, it has completely swept me off my feet into its world that might have me loving every moment or makes me have a panic attack from shock. Either way, I think Fallout is a very special series. This video has shown you my feelings towards it, and I think many people feel the same way as me. We want more media like this to reach the spotlight of mainstream media, and it'd be great if smaller projects were given this opportunity. I'm sure big corporate schnozzers already have sniffed out potential takers for the next big project. Putting that aside, I hope more creative projects are able to pull out all their potential from a team of passionate creatives who want to take storytelling as a whole to another level. Fallout is another stepping stone on this path where everyone has an endpoint for their dream adaptation. You may have reached it already long ago or are waiting for it every day. I assure you, in some way or form, it is getting closer. That is my hope for the future of storytelling. If you want to support me in making these videos, I just opened up a Patreon. If you go to my link in the description or on my YouTube profile, you can subscribe to a number of tiers which will give you different permissions, such as polls to decide my next video idea, game and movie nights in my Discord, exclusive video content such as brutally honest reviews, tutorials, and Q&As, sneak peeks into my video making process, and you might even get a special shout out from me at the end of a video. The tiers range from $1, $5, and $10, so please support however much you want, and if you don't want to, I still very much appreciate you for making it this far into the video. Sorry that this video took so long to come out. It was a long process of technical difficulties and life problems, so I hope you can cut me some slack on the video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it around. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see all of you next time.